Okay, it's about 2 o'clock right now, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the City of Davenport's Home-ARP Community Meeting. I'm Megan Overton. I'm the Neighborhood Development Coordinator at the City of Davenport, and I'm in the Community and Economic Development Department. The purpose of today's meeting is to provide an overview of the Home-ARP program, funding available, review eligible activities, and do have another way for those wanting to comment, be able to comment and review our information. This video recording of the meeting will be available on the city's website by this Friday, August 26th, if you don't have a chance to provide the comments you would like to, or if you're viewing this at a later time. Those that are on, please make sure that you are muted. And if you have questions or comments, please use the chat feature of GoToMeeting. So what is Home-ARP? Home-ARP is part of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, which is funding to address the continued impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. A portion of the ARPA funds was appropriated to be administered through HUD's Home Investment Partnership Program, or HOME, creating Home-ARP. Home-ARP funds must benefit qualifying populations, also referred to as QPs, under 4 specified activities. Qualifying populations, or QPs, are only eligible for the Home-ARP funding. The eligible QPs that have been identified are sheltered and unsheltered homeless populations, those currently housed populations at risk of homelessness, other families requiring services or housing assistance or to prevent homelessness, and those at greatest risk of housing instability or they're in unstable housing situations. Eligible activities for Home-ARP funding. So these are the only activities that are available under Home-ARP funding. A little different than traditional home funding if you're used to the regular home grant. So it's for development and support of affordable rental housing, tenant-based rental assistance, supportive services, including homeless prevention services and housing counseling, and then non-congregate shelters. So there are 3 components to eligibility for Home-ARP funding. 1, you are an eligible organization. These are organizations that are already providing homeless services to qualifying populations with a last permanent address in Davenport, as reported in the Homeless Management Information System. 2, the eligible organization is providing an eligible activity. And 3, the eligible activity or activities being provided are available to all of the qualifying populations. The city will be holding an application period for our Home-ARP funding later this year once our plan is approved, and all programs will be run through eligible organizations similar to our normal CDBG subrecipient program. So this is the breakout of the amount of Home-ARP funding that the City of Davenport is receiving. We're receiving approximately $1,533,897. The proposed funding breakout is based on the received needs and gaps in the community and feedback from agencies on what types of programs they would be interested in applying for. So before developing our Home-ARP allocation plan, a participating jurisdiction, which the City of Davenport is considered a participating jurisdiction through HUD, must consult with agencies and service providers whose clientele include the Home-ARP qualifying populations. This is to identify unmet needs and gaps in housing or service delivery systems. At a minimum, a participating jurisdiction must consult with the continuing of care serving our jurisdiction, homeless and domestic violence service providers, veterans groups, public housing agencies, public agencies that address the needs of qualifying populations, and public or private organizations that address fair housing, civil rights, and the needs of persons with disabilities. So our outreach process included a pre-plan intent to apply for our funding, notice of intent type of application. We did that in March of 2022. And then we conducted an agency survey to identify the needs and gaps, and that was open from April through June of 2022. We reached out to approximately 74 area groups to assist in the planning process, and their feedback helped guide the priority needs for the plan. And I want to also extend a huge thank you to those who talked to me and kind of helped guide me to some available resources and just took their time to actually talk about the needs of our community and helping with the planning process. So I'm going to go over all of the feedback that we received in kind of just a summary. So the first type of feedback, like I had mentioned, was a notice of intent to apply for our funding. So this was sent out to our area service providers in March of 22. We used this to gauge who would be interested in applying for our available home ARP funding. We had 2 agencies submit interest applications. One stated that they'd be interested in developing affordable rental housing, and the other would be interested in tenant-based rental assistance and providing supportive services for those transitioning out of homelessness. The next was through our pre-planning agency survey. So this was used to gather information on current resources and needs of the communities. The city invited all of the required consultation groups as described in the Home ARP notice. Our survey was open from April 8th through July 1st of this year. Some of the main themes that came out of the survey were not enough affordable housing, a need for accessible units, a need for 3+ bedroom units, a need for additional shelter space, and a need for flexible shelter spaces. Activities ranked in funding priority were 1, development and support of affordable rental housing, 2, supportive services, 3, tenant-based rental assistance, and then 4, the non-congregate shelters. And then the funding priority ranked for the qualifying populations were those at greatest risk of housing instability or in unstable situations, 2, the sheltered and unsheltered homeless populations, 3, those currently housed populations at risk of homelessness, and 4, other families requiring services or housing assistance to prevent homelessness. So then our next feedback that we're going to go over is the data. So we used available data sources for the city, county, and metro area. It just kind of depended on what was actually available at the lower geography levels. Not everything was available for the city level, so we did default to Scott County and our greater metro area. Some of the sources that we use are the standard data sources that service providers report data to and that HUD also provides. So these include HUD's Comprehensive Housing Affordability Strategy Data, or CHAS, the Institute of Community Alliances. They provide homeless data and point-in-time counts. The National Low Income Housing Coalition, they provide some different housing needs reports. And then some of our local planning documents that include the analysis of impediments to fair housing. And that is a 3-city, the 3 entitlements in the Quad City areas plan. And then the housing needs assessment, also the 3 entitlements and the Quad Cities combined plan. And then the silos to solutions plan, which is done by the Quad City Housing Coalition. So this plan is full of data. I'm just going to touch on a couple highlights from the plan, but I do urge you to go and review the plan and look at all of our data that is included in it. There's a lot included in the appendix as well. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of the highlights. that pulling from the plan. So some highlights, we found that there's approximately 85 rental units currently available for those making 30% of area median income, with a need of at least 6,000 more in the whole metro area. From 2010 to 2017, Scott County, which is the county that Davenport is in, has lost approximately 39% of their units below $650 a month, while units above $650 a month have increased by over 55%. For a little context, $650 a month is the fair market rent for a one-bedroom in Scott County. Approximately 24.8% of all households are considered cost burden. This means a household is spending more than 30% of their monthly income on housing. 10.1% of those households that are cost burden are making less than 30% of the area median income, with 6.8% of those being renters. And there is a gap of at least 1,000 units of permanent supportive housing needed. All right, so these are tables that are included in the plan. This first table I'm going to show you shows the shelter's current inventory and gaps. This information was provided by local area agencies and comes from multiple sources. One agency I spoke to also let me know that this data only counts the information that agencies who are continuing of care organizations and the ones that report to homeless management information systems, their data is included. So there might be other local nonprofits who provide shelter and services that may not be included in this. These are just ones that report to HUD databases, and so we're actually able to access the data easily. So just a little caveat with that. The second table shows the rental housing needs and gaps in our area. Again, this table was provided by local area agencies and comes from multiple sources. So some highlights of our housing needs. A main theme that was heard throughout the consultation process was the need for affordable housing. Additional recommendations that we received were there's many large older homes in our area that are in need of repairs and rehab or complete replacement. More rental housing more rental assistance is needed. Neighborhood stabilization through rehab of both rental and owner-occupied housing is needed, and improved code enforcement and nuisance abatement. So what are some highlights of the resident needs? The main themes that we heard throughout are we've had an over 30% increase in the use of emergency shelters during the pandemic. Many shelter providers observed that already cost-burdened residents have lost their hours, had them reduced, or have lost their jobs entirely. Those who are in affordable units have had their rents increased or their leases not renewed. And one other thing, and I thought it really was something I hadn't thought about, and through our consultation process, I had one of the service providers point this out to me, that COVID is still around and it's still causing issues, and there's a lot of people that don't have paid time leave. So those that are already cost burdened or still struggling to catch up, and then COVID causes them to have to take time off without pay. So that is something that I just thought was something I hadn't thought of before, and I thought that was a really good thing to kind of highlight. So we gathered all this feedback through our notice of intent, our survey, our agency feedback, and data, and created priority needs for the qualifying populations in our area. These priority needs are for all qualifying populations, and this is just a guide and a focus for what is needed in our community. So one is increase affordable rental housing units with an emphasis on 3+ bedrooms and accessible units. 2, create supportive service programs focused on preventing homelessness with an emphasis on creation of financial literacy and a mentoring program. And then 3, provide rental assistance for those at risk of homelessness to alleviate the need to go through shelters and keep people in their current housing units. So the next steps in our planning process is we just started our 15-day comment period. So we just started it yesterday on August 22nd. It runs through September 6th. We will be then holding a public hearing at our City Council on September 7th. That is at 5:30 p.m. at City Hall. Once we have all of that done, we're going to finalize our draft and submit it to HUD. We're kind of hoping around the end of this September, very beginning of October. Once the plan is approved by HUD, we will then open our application period for agencies to apply for our funding. Our plan for that is late fall, early winter. But you will hear more about that once we get a little closer and have more definitive dates on that. So now that you've had an overview of the process, if you would like to submit any comments or questions, you can use the chat feature. All comments will be included with the plan and all questions will be answered. If I'm not able to answer your question now, it will be answered and included in the plan documentation. If you are viewing this plan or this video at a later time or have additional comments or questions, you can feel free to submit them to me by email. My email is there on the screen. It's megan.overton@davenportiowa.com. We will accept comments through Tuesday, September 6th. So you have plenty of time to review our plan draft, which is available on the city's website, and then review this video again also. And then there are additional resources available out there. There's tons of information on the Home-ARP program. It's all on the HUD Exchange. You can go to the link on your screen, or if you just Google HUD Home-ARP, it'll take you right to it. A reminder that this video will be recorded and it will be available on the city's website by this Friday, August 26th. And comments can be submitted in writing to me. Again, my email is on the screen. And that is all I have for you guys. So if you'd like to submit your comments, feel free to now, or you can, again, email me at a later time. I'll go back to the slide with my email, but I thank everyone who has logged in for taking the time to review this with us, and then those who are viewing this at a later time, thank you for taking the time to view this video.